All right, we can get going whenever you're ready.
Okay. Hi, my name is Elizabeth Hanna. I am a nurse practitioner at St. Mark's Hospital and an obesity medicine specialist. And today we're going to talk about New Year's resolutions. Obviously, with my background in obesity medicine, some of my examples will tend to focus around weight loss, which is a really common New Year's resolution that people tend to make. And what we're going to focus on is why you should probably ditch the traditional resolutions and resolve not to make the same mistakes this year. And this will be interactive. So, to a degree, obviously there's a lot of people, but also it would be helpful if you had a little bit of something to write on. It doesn't have to be something you're going to keep forever, but something to write on and write with. So we're going to talk about motivation and willpower. And we're going to find a way to kind of tap into our deep desire to change behaviors. We're going to look at ways that resolutions can be altered in order to be good for our mental health rather than punitive. And we're going to learn some better techniques to change our behavior. And hopefully we'll be able to find an approach that works for you. And we're only going to try to make changes that are sustainable and meaningful to us. And like I said, as an obesity specialist, many of my examples will kind of lean into that, but not all of them. So if resolutions don't work, why are we all here today? Let's look at last year. And last year was maybe an unusual year for most of us. So let's think about it. If anybody made a New Year's resolution, and there is always the chat box too, you can kind of stick something in there. But what was your resolution last year? If you think back to January and you set a resolution, what was your resolution? Did you do it? How long did you stick to it? What stopped you? How many resolutions did you have? Were you kind of like a one resolution person, or did you set out a couple of goals? And not just last year, but in the past, have you ever stuck to a resolution for the whole year? And if anybody is willing to share a resolution, either say it out loud that they had last year or pop it in the chat box, that'd be great. I can't say that I had one. I rarely do resolutions anymore in the traditional form. Kim, I'm going to make you do one if no one will share. Let's try this. Did anybody stick to their resolution in 2020, given that by March we were in the middle of a pandemic? So goal setting, and what's the point of a resolution? Why do we do it? Why do we make them? No, someone said no. I don't, yeah. I think a lot of people too, if your aim was, I'm going to get fit, go to the gym more, yeah, everything was canceled, right? Someone just said, I just try to say to myself, I'll do better than the year before. I like that. I think that's awesome. Yeah, someone tried to volunteer more and they couldn't keep to that. Who knew that 2020 was going to look like it did? That's why, actually, that example of I'm going to do better than I did the year before is an example of a really good resolution because it's one of those ones that can be flexible. So why do we do them? They're usually kind of this goal setting thing. This is a goal setting activity, but we tend to do them at the beginning of the year. It's, kind of symbolic. They're usually aimed at self-improvement, and they tend to be kind of lofty, right? They're these kind of like these bigger achievements that we want to achieve. Something like becoming healthier, happier, finding more meaning in our lives. So looking back at the way 2020 went, if you had it to do over, maybe not knowing there was a pandemic, but if you had it to do over, you could tell yourself this would have been a better resolution. Does anybody think, okay, this would have been a better resolution for 2020 that would have made it an easier year for me or would have been actually achievable? I don't know if anybody actually took up some hobbies or did anything during COVID, during the lockdown. I know a lot of people kind of did, like learn how to play the ukulele or do more art. And I will share mine. I wish that my resolution for 2020, I wish I had one, and I wish that it had been to build a home gym. That is would have been great resolution in 2020. I should have done it. I should have built a home gym. Someone said they did so much during lockdown. What kind of stuff? Because in a funny way, 2020 kind of was an opportunity. We could have done stuff. Workout videos. Yeah. I think a lot of us had to get creative when we couldn't go to the gym anymore. Someone repainted their house. Yeah, I did a couple. I repainted a fence and I repainted did my porch. So it was kind of one of those things where it's like, oh, actually, there's some opportunities. I think one of the problems when we do resolutions is that we tend to make them easy to forget, and therefore they're easy to give up on. And they tend to be personal and involve ourselves. And so we don't have any accountability built in. When we fail at them, we just fail to ourselves and we feel bad for ourselves and then we move on. Whereas if we involved other people or had other people help us be accountable, then we might stick with them more. Someone removed their wand. That's impressive. So resolutions, by 30 days, 75% of people have already given up. And by the end of the year, only 8% of people are still at it. So when we think about why is that the case, I think a lot of it comes down to we choose kind of the wrong goals, or, and that can be down to semantics and wording, or we aren't motivated by them. They aren't realistic. They're too vague, or they're too specific. We don't plan, or our timing is bad. And the final thing is we don't list support. So how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So sometimes when we have these really big goals, we don't think about what are the steps we're going to need to take in order to get there. And I think one of the biggest myths that I encounter with a lot of people, especially when they want to lose weight or address kind of how their relationship with food and try to get in control of that, is that they think that they have a lack of willpower. They think willpower is this thing, like a muscle, that if you were to just work at it, you could build it and it'd be big and strong. And that some people just have really strong willpower and some people are just really weak-willed. But that's not really how willpower works. And there's been a lot of studies to show this. Willpower is more like a bucket that you deplete, and you use up your willpower with lots of things, commitments that you already have in your life. And I definitely have people come in to the clinic, and then I listen to them and I say, well, what's going on in your life? What other commitments do you have? And they're in school full time, they work full time, they have kids, they're taking care of an older parent. And it's like, okay, well, where is the time that you're going to dedicate to yourself that you can actually make changes in your life? And they don't really have any. Their willpower is being depleted. That bucket is totally empty. So it can be anything. It can be work commitments. If you decide to do something like make a change to your life for your health, that's also going to take some of the willpower. So you have to think about it as a bucket rather than a muscle that you develop. So the first thing to think about is, this is even the right time to tackle a new resolution. I'm going to use that word for lack of anything better. We all know that motivation is a person's reason for doing something, but I want to break that down further. When we think about it, we've got kind of almost three parts to motivation. We've got the motivation to start, and the motivation to continue, and then the motivation in terms of how much intensity we're going to give something. And that's going to help determine what we're going to do when we hit an obstacle. So you might be more inherently motivated to start a project of any kind, but not be really great at maintaining that motivation to continue them. That's pretty typical, particularly when it comes to something like weight loss or making healthy changes. And some people really hit that hard. They go gung-ho, they're going to the gym every day, they're really working out hard. And then that motivation kind of wanes and deteriorates. And after a few months, it's gone. And it's like, well, why did that happen? Why were they so motivated in the very beginning? And then it just started to wane and it's gone. And other people are actually kind of, more balanced at it and manage to maintain that intensity, but they're not motivated to start. Yeah, someone said I don't stay motivated because I get sidetracked. Yeah, and some people are really great at starting lots of things, and you might have lots and lots of projects that's like, oh, why don't I finish these things? And it's hard. And sometimes you just need that outside pressure. Some people need that stress, that kind of good stress to force them, or a deadline or something. And again, that accountability. And when we make these resolutions and we don't involve other people, where's the accountability? And something like changing your lifestyle, there's no end point to pressure you to finish. I mean, death, I suppose, is the end point. So none of us want to think about that. So it's really hard. I always say the diet is the maintenance phase, and that's kind of a bummer. The other problem with something like weight loss and even with exercise is that a lot of the burden of doing it is up front. You stop eating a certain way and you start eating another way. It's not like you're going to lose 20 pounds that week and then you just have to carry on eating that way and you can keep that weight off. Some of the weight will come off and then it just slowly comes off gradually over time, but you have to make all the sacrifices up front. And then by the time you maybe lose 20, 30 pounds, it's been so slow, you don't notice it. Maybe you run into someone who hasn't seen you and they say, oh my gosh, you look so great. But you're like, really? I haven't even noticed. So the payoff and the reward is so far out there, but the punishment feeling stuff is super upfront. And same with exercise. When we start to exercise, you don't immediately get that runner's high. You don't immediately feel great. You feel tired and hungrier maybe and sore. And it takes a couple of weeks, even maybe a month for all that to lift where you're like, wow, I feel really energized by exercise. So all the kind of punishment is sort of up front, heavy loaded in the front. And it's hard to push past that sometimes. So when we look at what motivates us, especially with weight loss, I'm going to talk about weight loss with this, but this can apply to a lot of things. We've got our extrinsic and intrinsic. I like this. Somebody said, done is good and not perfect. We focus too much on things being perfect. Yeah, good enough is what I always say. This is so true that people do go for perfect. And sometimes that was me. I tend to over edit things because and then you never have an end in sight because you don't just say, okay, this is done. It's good enough. And that's true. And a lot of times with our resolutions, if we don't do them exactly how we've envisioned, instead of letting things go the way they're going to go and be more flexible, then we do get burned out. That's awesome. So extrinsic with weight loss, it might be some goal. And a lot of times people, when they first come to me and I ask them why they want to lose weight, it's something, and I call them kind of like the shallow goals. They'll say, oh, my high school reunion's coming up, or I want to look good in these jeans. And essentially it revolves around positive attention from others. But then when you look deeper and you start to say, well, why? Why do you care about that? You start to get to the deeper reasons. And that's when you get to things like maybe there's some health issues underneath. Maybe they want to be on less blood pressure medications. Maybe they want to have more energy to play with their kids and their grandkids. Maybe they don't feel good. And I mean, that could be physical or mental. Maybe they inherently don't feel well. Maybe they feel like they're being passed up for promotions, or they feel bad about themselves and so they're not putting their best foot forward. Maybe their dad died of a heart attack at 40 and they don't want to follow in those footsteps. Those deeper, more intrinsic motivators tend to be more useful in terms of motivating us for longer. So one of the things I like to do is called the 5 whys. And that can sometimes help us get past some of our shallow reasons, especially when it comes to the way we look. We tend to focus on the superficial. So we can't really get what we want if we don't know what it is. And finding meaningful goals, getting to those deeper motivations is really critical. So when you do the 5 whys, you take your initial reason for wanting to do something and you ask yourself why 5 times. So for example, I want to lose 25 pounds. And you go, why? Well, I want to feel good about meeting somebody. And actually, I took this example. I asked my patient if it was okay. When she initially came to me, she was single and she was like feeling really sad about it. She was, nearing 30, and this is Utah, so you're not allowed to be single at 30. So she felt really sad about it. And that was her motivation. And I'm like, for me, I was like, that's not great motivation because one, there's no guarantee you lose 25 pounds and, the person of your dreams is going to show up. So is that going to demotivate you? But then I started asking, I made her do the 5 whys. And it was like, she felt like she was missing out on opportunities that other young people had because of the weight. And she lost her confidence in a bathing suit, but she used to love to swim. And then she realized, she wanted to be able to exercise more and that she felt happy when she was exercising. And because she put this extra weight on, she wasn't even going to the gym because she felt bad. And all of a sudden it's like, okay, not only do we have better reasons for wanting to, get in shape, but we also have something that you like doing, exercising. Let's get you back into that. Maybe not necessarily into a bathing suit if that's making you feel bad, but if you felt good when you're exercising, now all of a sudden we have kind of a solution built in. So I think that that's sometimes a really useful way to find a deeper motivation for something. And like I said before, most of the types of goals we make put the reward at the end and the punishment up front, which is probably why, well, it's probably good to have that motivation to be intense and start the thing, but it sometimes doesn't pay off. We'll stop. We focus on the part of our goal also that we have the least control over. For example, if you want to lose 25 pounds, sometimes you step on that scale and you've gained 2 pounds, even though you were really good about what you ate and you exercised. There's just that inherent, I don't know what, and people say, well, why did I gain weight? And I say, I don't know. It could be water weight. I have no idea. Sometimes that just happens. And it's super frustrating. And when you're focusing on the number, and the number is the thing, you don't have 100% control over that. Not every day. But if you focus on the journey and make the journey the goals, you have a lot more control over that. You can focus on your systems and routines, and it's not just semantics. It's about thinking about what can you do in order to get there. So for example, and I'm going to use weight loss again, but if you don't drink a lot of water and you're drinking a lot of soda, that's like one of the ways to get your goal. Okay, I'm going to cut back on soda and I'm going to start to try to drink 64 ounces of water a day. You have control over drinking 64 ounces of water a day. You have control over not drinking soda every day. And if that's one of your little mini goals, you can do that every day, no matter what. And it's not going to be controlled by some outside force. If your goal is to go to the gym 3 times a week, unless you're sick, you have some control over that until COVID hit, which is why I wish I'd made my goal to build a better home gym. So how much water do I drink a day? What time do I go to bed? Sometimes you have control over that. Sometimes you don't. I used to work shifts. How many steps do you get that day? Breaking your goals into smaller chunks. What kind of groceries are you bringing into your house? Your environment, and that could be your environment, even if weight loss isn't your thing. What are you doing in order to nudge yourself towards the behavior that you want? If it's reducing stress, what are the stressors in your life? What are you doing to sort of eliminate and avoid these things or control them better? How often do you eat out? How are you dealing with stress? And what extra responsibilities do you take on? It's okay to say no to things. So we can turn these sorts of things into a routine, like the mini goals, and then we have more responsibility for them. And we don't have to worry about, I step on a scale and I didn't make 25 pounds, or you're trying to reduce your mile run. You might not make those numerical goals in the time that you want to, but if you're constantly practicing, I'm running a mile every, 5 times a week, eventually that numerical goal will get there, but you're not fixating on it and then feeling bad when you don't reach it. So your environment, I think, is the most important thing for any kind of goal. And what I tell people is to observe it first. You've got your physical environment and your social environment. Your physical environment just refers to literally the things around you. And what I want people to do is set their physical environment up in a way that will nudge them towards their desired goal. So the first thing to do is observe what in your environment is nudging you towards the choices you don't want to make. So if you're wanting to go for a run 3 times a week, why aren't you doing that? Do you need to put your shoes next to the door? Do you need to wake up earlier? What's keeping you from doing that? What is the thing that's keeping you from doing what you want to do? What small changes can you make to clear out temptations to not do the thing that you want to do? Start to replace little routines. If you're in the routine of not going for a run, how are you going to replace that with a routine to go for a run in the morning? If you're in a routine of waking up every morning, having a coffee and having, a cinnamon roll for breakfast, and you want to replace it with a healthy routine, how are you going to do that? Don't buy cinnamon rolls. Don't make cinnamon rolls. What are the things that you can do to your physical environment that will just help to nudge you towards better choices? That makes it so much easier. And again, it goes back to that willpower. It's a bucket that you're depleting. And if every morning you've made your environment such that you have to navigate all these difficult choices and say, okay, there are cinnamon rolls here, or I can have a piece of whole wheat toast, you just depleted a little bit of willpower. And whenever you kind of, I'll use the word fail at one of your routines that you're trying to implement, don't look at it like a failure, but as an opportunity to look back at your routine, reflect on it, and then figure out what you can fix. The social environment is harder because that's the people in your environment. And I think the first thing to do is to think about who are the people that are rooting for you. If you want to make a change to your life and you were to go and tell your friends and family, hey, I want to do this thing, who's going to be on your team? Who is going to sabotage? And it might be the well-meaning sabotage, or it might be the not so well-meaning sabotage. The one that's motivated by jealousy, or it could be that they're motivated by you doing something positive kind of highlights that they're not. That's kind of insecurity. Can you talk to people about what you're doing and ask for support? Either find someone who also wants to do it with you, or find someone who will help you and hold you accountable. Having an accountability buddy is one of the best things you can do. There's a lot of studies that have come out about this, but there was a really big one that was in China, and it was looking at people who were doing weight loss in groups versus as individuals. And I don't mean to say that this is for everybody, but they found that people that did weight loss programs in groups lost more weight, were more likely to stick to the program, and enjoyed it more than people who tried to do it on their own. Now, I still think there's some individuals who just wouldn't enjoy being in a group and they would probably do better on their own. But the majority of people did better in the groups. They had some accountability, and they also liked it because they got to socialize and then, get tricks from other people and make friends. So it's possible if you're doing something, if you want to, drink less or, exercise more, it might be that you need to socialize differently. If there's a lot of people in your life that are going to kind of be like, no, I'm not going to support you. I'm going to sabotage you, or that you need to really examine your life and the people in it and how they're kind of impacting what the changes are that you want to make. So buying a gym membership is definitely not enough. I know this because I always see an uptick in business around March, because that's when people stop going to the gym and they realize that the gym membership wasn't enough. They didn't go and they need more help. So plan for success. Set a goal that is right for you and taps into your motivation, the deeper motivation, not just the extrinsic, but the intrinsic, the real reason you want to do something that's going to last. Make the goal work for you in a style that's going to work for you. That's going to help a lot. And explore your environment with a critical eye. Establish routines around your existing lifestyle. So don't just go, okay, I'm going to do this and I'm going to change my entire life and I'm going to live in this completely different way. Look at how you live your life now. What are the small changes that you can make to your routine that exists now that will help you to go towards where you want to be? And then don't give up when you experience setbacks, but reflect on them. And even think about the setbacks that you're going to encounter before you encounter them and kind of plan for them. How are you going to deal with them before they even happen? Okay, so this is what I want you to get a pen and paper for. I want you to write down 3 kind of big picture things that you want for yourself. So these are kind of like the nebulous resolutions. What are some 3 things that you maybe want to work on, or 3 goals that you have for yourself that are bigger? So everybody write them down. And if you want to share them in the chat, that'd be great. I would love that. Okay, when you've got those 3 things, I want you to pick one of them and do the 5 whys. Ask yourself why 5 times. Why do you want to work on that? What is your motivation? Okay, then I want you to think about who's going to be your cheerleader, who's going to hold you accountable for your goal. And if you want to, you can also think about who your sabotage person is, but you don't have to share that. And what obstacles are going to stand in your way. And those could be your physical environment, they could be your social environment, they could be yourself. And take an honest look at your life and think about what are you already spending your willpower bucket on right now? Where is a lot of your willpower bucket going? And for me, I guess this is Scots Irish in me. For me, the willpower bucket is kind of like, what do I spend my energy not losing my temper on? Because that's where my willpower goes, and that's how I know if my willpower bucket is being used up on everything, if I'm having to spend a lot of time not losing my temper. And so, with kids home, online school, that takes up a fair amount because there's somebody always at home making a mess. And when you start to look at that whole picture, does it obviously fall into sort of like mini goals for you? Can you think of maybe 3 smaller goals that you can reach or milestones along the way? Or if it doesn't kind of neatly fit into that, are there 3 routines or systems that you could put into place to help you achieve what you're hoping to do? And then go ahead and give yourself a timeline for it. When are you hoping to have this be a normal part of your routine or life? So if it's one of those things that is clearly going to have a final end point, you can do that. Or if it's something that you want to do, incorporate into your life and have be sustainable kind of forever, then just say, by this point, I'm hoping that this is going to be my lifestyle. This is how I'm going to be, and this is what it's going to look like. And the final check is, I want you to look at your goal, step back from it, and is it a punitive goal or is it rewarding? Because that's the other thing that we tend to do, and that sort of falls into our temperament. And a lot of us are not great at self-talk that's positive. And if we tend to be kind of those negative self-talkers, look back at your goal. Are you being mean or are you being nice? And if your goal is kind of punitive, think about rewording it. How can you make that a more positive thing to work on? So, yeah, somebody said they wanted to get more sleep. I just thought I'd throw this in. So my philosophy on weight loss and just generally healthy weight maintenance is there's 4 components of it, and I give them equal weight. And it is sleep, stress, diet, and exercise, because I will often have people come in and their diet actually doesn't look that bad and they are exercising, but their stress or their sleep will be just out of control. And when you have a lot of stress going on in your body, your cortisol levels go up, and sleep is so crucial. So I definitely advocate for more sleep for people. Sometimes that is exactly what they need. And also, someone said, as Jamie said, they wanted to gain 15% muscle mass and lose 15% fat mass. In June at our clinic, we have in the evening, it's usually around June, and if you look on the St. Mark's website, they post community, it's healthy lifestyle classes. But we have a thing where you can come in and actually use the body comp for free. If you don't have one at your gym or something, we have a whole body comp thing that will break down, your fat and your muscle and this, that, the other. And they're free. And we did it during COVID, actually. We did it socially distanced for one of them. We skipped one and then we did it and we socially distanced. June, hopefully a lot of people will have their vaccines so we can get more people in. We didn't get as many people in last time as we normally do, but keep an eye out for that if you want to come in for that. And yes, I totally advocate for being debt free. That's one of my big goals, is to pay off all the things. Got your second vaccine? Yeah, I got mine 2 weeks ago, and it wasn't that bad. So awesome. So here are some of the ones that I went around my office and asked people what their kind of goals were, the bigger lofty life things. And some of the answers I got were a calmer life, cleaner house, getting into better shape, more quality time with family. I feel like I've had plenty of that this this year. And then someone had the goal to read more books. And so with the one that's like getting into better shape, and whenever someone has like losing weight, Losing weight is one of those ones that can be very punitive. And so when I break that down with people, I tend to try to focus on things like, using meal planning and strategies so that if they're spending a lot of time eating out, like how can we reduce that and also save money? And finally, like healing their relationship with food. I think that's always like a really great starting point for someone who comes in, they're like, I need to lose weight. And it's like, do you need to kind of like work on your relationship with food first and foremost? And try new things when it comes to exercising. So I think setting goals to match your personality type is also something that is important and can be really beneficial because we're all different. And so if we look at ourselves honestly and say, well, this is just the kind of person I am, you can meet more goals that way. So some people are super good at meeting their goals and kind of have those they're mapped out lives where they have these short, medium, and long-term goals. You go, how come you can do that? Why are you so good at that kind of thing? And some people need to have a rational reason for starting a new goal or habit. They approach it analytically and they benefit from a really detailed plan and account for kind of contingencies. So if you're one of those people, make sure that your goals match that. Like maybe there's a reason you have to do this and a reason why you have to change this. Really think about it and analyze your goals. People who get easily bored, they're going to benefit from goals that incorporate smaller goals and allow for creativity. So those are my people that, benefit from going to different kind of exercise class, go on YouTube, try different things, do meal planning, try different cookbooks, try different things all the time. They like to stay engaged and they also need little milestones to keep them motivated. It doesn't work well to be like, lose 50 pounds. Good luck. Some people benefit from involving other people. So that could be like workout partners, groups, online groups, to talk about their goals. So they kind of need a community. So for some people, and that's like that, what I was saying in the Chinese study where they looked at people who lost weight in groups. But with COVID, I think we've seen that a lot of people benefit from online communities too. There's lots of fitness and diet and exercise kind of groups online now that are really beneficial for people. And then other people benefit a lot from reflecting on their experience, journaling, processing their experiences as they go along. And they benefit from kind of exploring their failures and then using them as learning experiences. And I've definitely seen a market pop up for those people. And I don't know if you get Facebook ads for them if you see, but there's lots of journals that are aimed at adopting a new habit, like 90-day journals, 30 days of whatever. And they're really nice. A lot of them are really, really cool. So if you're that kind of person that likes to reflect and think about what you're doing and you need to check in daily with your new habit or whatever you're doing, there are so many things. Habit Nest makes one that's pretty nice. But there's like, I can't even tell you, there's an infinity on the market right now. One of the things I think is fun is a goal per month, like 30-day habits, and then you can build towards one overarching goal or theme. I have a friend that did that, and he kind of does that. That's kind of his thing. And he wanted to build towards an ultra marathon. He was going to run an ultra marathon. He's a former Marine. And so he was doing kind of 30-day habits because he's sort of easily bored. And he liked to journal, and he was kind of he actually showed me a lot of those things. And he was using those 30-day habit builders and building up a routine so he could eventually do an ultra marathon. Some people really like to focus on like a daily or weekly goal. They really like to micro goal it down to stay more organized and focused. So maybe only one goal per day, 1 to 3 per week. And then it helps them to not have some endless to-do list. For some people that feel like they don't have a lot of time, maybe your willpower bucket is pretty depleted. You could make a small goal, but just give yourself 20 minutes per day to work on it, like learning the ukulele. And this is something that I think is really fun and cool. It's not having a goal, but just having a mantra for the year. And again, if you're one of those people that's kind of into negative self-talk, look at it, maybe run it by somebody else and make sure that your mantra is something positive. So it could be something like just do one thing per day. My well-being is a priority. I have the ability to change. And making just a mantra for yourself for the year, putting it somewhere where you can see it and reminding yourself. And that's the other thing I want you guys to do. I want you to come up with one mantra for yourself for 2021. And we already got one person that did it. So Lisa beat everybody. So come up with a mantra for the rest of your year. a positive one. And please do share if you're willing. Keep moving forward. Yeah, that's good. And I want you to take these, and then I want you to put it on your workstation. If you have a computer or whatever, put it right at the top to remind yourself. Little changes in me make big changes in the system. That's awesome. I like that a lot. Okay, so looking at that 12-month goal theme, I have done this with some of my patients where, they're wanting to get more physically active. And I'm just like, okay, we'll choose something you're going to do each month if they're kind of easily bored. And it could be something like, okay, I want to be more physically active. Especially in Utah, there's a lot of people that don't do winter sports, and I think you miss out on a lot. So, it could be, I'm going to go snowshoeing every weekend and Wednesday. Month 2, I'm going to try cross country skiing. Month 3, join a yoga studio, try 2 times a week. Month 4, join the rec center. And I did not put that because I was doing Salt Lake County. I totally forgot that I was doing that. But I'm a big fan of the rec center. You have no idea how many people I tell to go to Salt Lake County rec centers. I used to teach Pilates, senior classes, and spin at a bunch of the rec centers in Salt Lake. So I'm a big fan. And my kids did snowboarding through the rec center. So I'm a big fan. Try indoor swimming twice a week, so every month they can kind of change and try something. And then hopefully by the end of the year, they're like, you know what, I liked this, I didn't like this, but they kept physically active. And instead of thinking about trying to lose weight, I have to go and, force myself to exercise, it feels more like play, which is a big thing to me. I'm like, why do kids get to play and we have to exercise, which sounds like a chore? And the final thing that I want to put in your head is that it's okay to prioritize yourself, setting up boundaries. If you want to make a change in your life, you're going to probably have to set some boundaries. And a lot of us aren't very good at saying no, but it's okay to prioritize yourself and your new hobbies or habits. It's okay to say no to food. That's totally fine. When somebody brings in food to the office or offers you something, it's okay to say no. Like, I'm actually trying to lose some weight or work on my blood pressure, whatever. It's okay to make time for yourself. And when something isn't working, just reflect on it, make changes. It's not a failure. It's just learning. This is a journey. The journey is the goal. There is no perfect version of yourself. If you achieve your goal, your problems aren't going to magically go away. So again, that's another reason to make the journey the goal. And we are always, all of us, on a journey towards improving ourselves and enjoying our lives more. And that should really be what it's about, is more enjoyment and just kind of self-improvement, not once I get this, once I lose that 25 pounds, everything's going to get better. I do think probably going debt-free, that's one of those goals that you will feel a lot better at the end. So here's some cool books. There's this one called Badass Habits by Jen Sincero. It's fun. That's a really great book. Cultivate the awareness of boundaries and daily upgrades you need to make them stick. I just recently discovered that book and I really like it. If you are interested in losing weight through habits, I like the Mayo Clinic diet a lot. You can also get it used on Amazon for like $4. It's a neat diet. It's not hard because it's based on habits. So it's not like you have to eat this, don't eat that. It's based on adopting 5 habits, dropping 5 habits, and then maybe taking up 5 more. So I really like it. It's very sustainable. Another really great book about healing your relationship with food is Intuitive Eating. I don't know if I recommend the book. It's a lot of words, but they have a workbook that I love, and you can kind of pick through, if there's a chapter you go, this isn't relevant, just skip it and then go to the next chapter and do those exercises. But I really like the workbook that goes with Intuitive Eating. If you like reading lots of words, then get the book. And then the other thing, I discovered this during COVID, and I think it's kind of fun. It's probably stupid, but there's this thing called it's like Conqueror Challenge, and it's online, and you do these silly challenges and you get a medal, and it's super cool looking. And so you can hike like the Appalachia Trail, and that's what I'm walking right now, or you can bike like the Camino de Santiago, and you can do all these different things, and they're different lengths and distances, and they do have an online community, so if you want to engage with them, you can. Otherwise, you can just work towards your medals and get a big old medal for doing a certain amount of distance. And so I think out of COVID, this sort of popped up where they were like, here, earn these fun medals. And they are fun. So until we all get our vaccines and absolutely everything's open, that's kind of a fun thing to do. So this is me again. You know, our center is a little bit unique. We have a comprehensive service for metabolic disorders, people that want to lose weight, people that have diabetes, and just kind of long-term solutions to weight problems. And we also work hand in glove with the bariatric surgeons upstairs. And so if you have any kind of concerns like that, please do consider us. And does anybody have any questions for me? Oh, the online medals, it's like Conquer Challenge. Let me really quick grab the email, or not email, the web address of it, and I will just pop it in there. Conquer online, oh, there we go. Aha, I found it. Sorry, this is gonna be the super specific one to this, but this is the website. It's called theconqueror.events, and that one is the one that's to the Camino Trail. Any other questions?
Just real quick, thank you so much, Elizabeth, for your amazing presentation. I know I got a lot out of it, and I know our participants did as well. Thank you. If you haven't already, fill out the survey and get your points for participation. Thank you all so much.
Thank you very much.